Welcome, everybody. If you're joining us live on ABC7.com and our ABC7 app, you're taking a live look at a police pursuit out of Pomona PD, in pursuit now of a SUV, a slow-speed pursuit down Holt Avenue. This started in Pomona, ended up on the 10 freeway for a short time, headed eastbound, and has now made his way back in the westbound direction, back in Pomona proper. Again, it looks like undercover units that are actually, or at least unmarked units that are in pursuit here as they travel slowly about a football field behind the suspect. Unclear how many people are inside that SUV, but it is believed that that suspect is possibly armed. Making a turn now, a southbound turn onto Park Avenue. Really slowly creeping down Park Avenue, drove through a red light and made that turn there. Interesting to see the police staying so far back here. We don't know what the want is, what the original story is behind this attempted traffic stop, or if this was some other crime, related to some other crime in the city of Pomona. CHP has been monitoring the developments, although they have not gotten involved at this point. So far, only Pomona. Pomona PD is the primary agency in pursuit here. They also have a helicopter that is circling as well. They are tracking this suspect from above. You can see, according to our real-time speed tracker, he is creeping down Park at about 10 to 20 miles per hour, coming to a stop at a set of railroad tracks now. Continuing southbound on Park Avenue through the San Gabriel Valley. Law enforcement possibly in communication with a relative, although that is unconfirmed, although it is believed that, again, the suspect may be armed with a weapon. Again, a lot of details yet to be filled in here, a lot that we don't know, but as you can see, not a high-speed pursuit, but rather a very slow-speed pursuit. The driving, not too erratic, has run a few stop signs and red lights, but other than that is fairly composed, kind of over the paint there, and just cruising through the city of Pomona. Again, he got off of the 10 freeway, is now heading westbound on Mission Boulevard. He'll be coming up on the 71. He'll have the option to get onto the 71, or he can continue west towards the 57 into Diamond Bar if he continues west on Mission Boulevard. No clear indication on a destination here, but it's interesting that he got onto the freeway, traveled out to Ontario, and then made his way in the opposite direction back into Pomona, where presumably, we understand this all started, but presumably he may be from. Again, Pomona PD, the primary agency here, as they continue losing a visual on the ground. There you see he made that turn, a northbound turn onto Huntington off of Mission, almost doing a full circle here in the last couple of minutes in this part of Pomona. But despite the fact that those units are not very close behind him, though there they are, they did make the turn with him there. They are now, again, about 100 yards back. But they do have the assistance of that helicopter. Thank you for that. Word coming into our assignment desk. This is now in tracking mode, and that makes a lot of sense just from what we're seeing up here. You can see those unmarked units following from behind. They've pulled back quite a bit, as I mentioned just a moment ago. Also, the helicopter staying right over him. A moment ago, I would say about 5 minutes ago, actually, he had his night sun on. That helicopter had his light on the suspect. He's turned that light off. He's continuing to track from above, but the pursuit has been canceled for now. They are just tracking him again from above and on the ground. Some folks taking video as he passes down 2nd Street. The original want here was apparently reckless driving. That is the original reason they had tried to pull him over. Although it does appear there may be more to the story. We do understand he may be armed, but we do understand now from a PIO that, or from the police department, that he is wanted at the very least for reckless driving and a failure to yield after being, or after the Pomona PD attempted to pull him over. And you're noticing once again, just in the last few minutes, he's really done a right-hand circle and now a left-hand circle through this neighborhood, covering a lot of the same area. He's on 3rd Street now did a loop around the block. And it looks like he's got his dome light on inside the vehicle, inside that SUV. And if we push in there, we may be able to confirm that there's nobody in that passenger seat, although anybody's guess as to whether there's anybody in the back there. But it does look like that passenger seat is empty, as we could see with his light that's been turned on in the last couple of minutes now. So the driver appears to be alone in the front there. Again, unclear whether there's anybody in the back, but now doing another left-hand turn here to complete a counterclockwise circle. So really circling the neighborhood here, back onto Hamilton. We were on Hamilton just a moment ago, doing a U-turn on Hamilton, coming very close to that bicycle there. But he's traveling so slowly that it's a much safer situation. So safe, or at least not enough of a threat to the general public, that they've actually decided to pull back. They've decided to pull back, pause the pursuit, and they're just kind of following him. They're trying to follow him on the ground there, and I can tell you that they are continuing to track him from above, coming back to the same intersection again. Hamilton and Mission, this time making an eastbound turn on Mission Boulevard. Another left-hand turn here, again completing another circle as he heads up northbound on Park Avenue. When we first joined you, he was traveling southbound on Park. He's basically done a figure 8 through this area and is now continuing northbound on Park towards the 10 freeway. Unclear whether he'll continue all the way up there, but that's the direction he's heading. You saw a moment ago that helicopter fly through the shot. That's Pomona Police Department, who's tracking him from above. You see they've turned their light off. Their spotlight has been turned off as they track his movements, and the pursuit that was on the 10 freeway is now in tracking mode. This is the same set of railroad tracks that we crossed a few minutes ago. Now going back in the opposite direction, again northbound on Park Avenue, just crossing Commercial Street, coming up on Monterey Avenue. Again, if you're just joining us, this is a reckless driver believed to be armed in the front seat of this what appears to be a Ford SUV, older model Ford. Slow speed pursuit through the streets of Pomona. Was on the freeway at one point. CHP still monitoring this pursuit. But Pomona PD, the primary agency, they've fallen quite a distance behind him. Unmarked units continuing to track his movements as well as the helicopter as he kind of meanders through Pomona. You can see near the bottom of your screen, that's an unmarked unit crossing Monterey now, continuing behind him. The suspect really slowing down. We'll go ahead and throw SkyMap up. If you're, again, just joining us, we're following a suspect, a reckless driving suspect who has failed to pull over for law enforcement. Again, Pomona Police Department, the primary agency in what was a slow speed pursuit, has now turned into a following. They are tracking this suspect through the streets of Pomona. He was on the freeway for a short time, heading out towards Ontario. CHP, again, tracking his every move along with the Pomona Police Department, but they have, for the time being, called off the pursuit, but they are still tracking his movements. Pomona PD with their helicopter up above as well. A slow speed pursuit, picking up a little bit here, now doing about 30 to 40 miles per hour. The night sun is back on. They may decide to re-engage here. There was an indication earlier that they may be in communication with a family member. There's a possibility that the suspect may be armed. And now, once again, another slow U-turn, something we have seen before in this pursuit. As we make that U-turn, pay attention to those unmarked units near the top of your screen. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5. So a good handful, at least 5 unmarked units that made that U-turn with him. They are tracking him, keeping a little bit of distance, but they do not have their lights and sirens on. We have no indication whether there's anybody else inside the vehicle. In any event, This slow speed following is continuing here in Pomona. Cool. Southbound on White Avenue now. Heading back towards the 10 freeway. We saw him go under the 10. At one point he was on the 10 freeway and then decided to get off and turn around. He's made several about faces doing 180s and U-turns randomly, especially in the last 20 minutes or so, as he has ended up right back where this all began, in the city of Pomona. Pomona PD continuing to keep tabs on him, and it looks like they're putting a little bit of pressure on him now. They're trying to get his attention and perhaps try and pull him over once again. He's obviously not stopping, not showing any signs or willingness to bring this to an end, but you can see he clearly is aware of the helicopter up above as he crosses underneath the 10 freeway one more time here. Southbound underneath the 10 freeway on White Avenue. Coming up on Orange, stopping for the red light, barely. You see that cross traffic, making a right turn. He did stop, and now he's continuing. Looks like it's going to be westbound on Orange Grove Avenue. And once again, we're back on Hamilton Boulevard, a southbound turn on Hamilton. Again, this is all territory that he has covered in a very short amount of time as he just kind of meanders through the city of Pomona, basically driving aimlessly through Pomona here. Again, southbound at about 40 miles per hour. Right through another intersection here, no cross traffic. He actually had the green light there. The light just turned green for him as he continues southbound on Hamilton Boulevard. Again, to help you get your bearings, we are traveling southbound through Pomona. We're south of the 10 freeway. We're just east of the 71. Copy that, thank you. And by all indications, it does look like they are re-engaging with the suspect to some degree. At least the helicopter is. You know, for a short time, we saw that helicopter track him without the night sun. Now that night sun is back on, all of the ground units have fallen back. It looks like he's making a really slow left turn. He did not have the green light there. Went right through that red light, and you saw that person coming through the intersection with the green light come really close to him there. So now he's coming back towards us. It looks like he's coming eastbound on Mission Boulevard, back towards Huntington Street. I think this is the third time, at least by my count, possibly the fourth time, that he has driven through this particular intersection. So a very, very peculiar police chase. But nonetheless, it does appear that the chase is back on. We will expect to see those unmarked units re-engage here shortly, but for right now, just the Pomona PD helicopter tracking his movements from above. You can see heavily tinted windows on this older model Ford SUV, making another northbound turn on White Avenue back towards the 10 freeway. There was an indication earlier that law enforcement had made contact with a relative, and sometimes that's an indication that there may be an emotional issue with the driver. Now, we have no idea what the mental state is of this driver. We know that he has not been driving too aggressively. He's kind of weaving here a little bit and picking up a little bit of speed. You saw that car who was coming up behind him. I don't know if that was a police officer. No, it was definitely not a police officer. It was another motorist who was coming up behind him, not expecting him to make that move there, and it looks like he's slowing down once again, but he's all over the lane, switching lanes randomly, making very random turns through red lights, through stop signs, and is now once again, I believe, going north on Holt. Check that, east on Holt. And a northbound turn onto another surface street here, a very residential area coming up. It's going to be Wisconsin Street that he is on now. Still relatively slow speeds. He's never really gone above 40 miles per hour, at least since we've been following overhead here in Air 7 HD. He was on the freeway for a short time. That didn't last long. He ended up getting off in Montclair and then made his way back into Pomona and has been basically driving aimlessly through the streets of Pomona for the last half hour or so, and you can see that helicopter continuing to track his movements. Not a whole lot of traffic down there, but occasionally we'll see some busier intersections that, while he's not driving too fast by any means, he's certainly not obeying the rules of the road and has clearly shown a willingness to just drive right through red lights, and that by itself is very dangerous. Now, there was also an indication that there may be a weapon inside the vehicle. We do not have that confirmed, but if that is the case, that will play into the decision-making of law enforcement as they continue to track his movements here. And ultimately, when this does come to an end, they will be cognizant of that possibility, as they always are in situations like this. So again, he's back on Orange Grove Avenue here. And a key question at this point is how much gas is in the tank? How much more fuel does he have to work with before he runs out? What's interesting about this pursuit is that at these speeds and with the patterns he's established here in the city limits of Pomona, he clearly could have been pitted by now. They could have used the pit maneuver to pull him over and end this pursuit, or they could have even used a spike strip to disable the vehicle. I think they've had pretty reasonable opportunity to do both of those things if they chose to. They have not chosen to do just track him, follow him from a distance. We haven't seen any aggressive moves at all from law enforcement. You could see all of those windows on the passenger side clearly heavily tinted, going through a green light here as he makes his way past Alvarado, now on Gary Avenue, continuing now through Pomona at speeds of about 30 miles per hour. And while we saw earlier there was at least a handful, I counted 5 unmarked units, I think I still see a couple of them left, and they are quite a ways back there. That may be some of them there, but I hesitate to call this a pursuit just from what we're seeing here, but clearly they are keeping a very, very close eye on them from above, even though those ground units have fallen back quite a bit. That is, again, the Pomona Police helicopter coming to a halt in the middle of the intersection here. He does have the green light. He may be looking to make a left turn onto halt. Again, this is all territory that we've covered before with this suspect. If he makes that left turn, that'll take him back towards the 10 freeway, I believe. Yeah. Actually, he's going. He's going. Yeah, no, he's going westbound now. Westbound on halt. So a westbound turn on to halt. Again, the original want here was a reckless driver. Pomona Police attempting to pull over a reckless driver earlier this evening. That driver refusing to pull over, and oftentimes when we hear about a reckless driver, we usually think about a really aggressive driver. In this case, the reckless driving that we've seen so far, and we can't speak for what happened earlier in the pursuit, but at least from our vantage point, the reckless nature of his driving has really consisted of weaving over double yellow lines, weaving across lanes for no apparent reason, and running stoplights and stop signs. So very peculiar behavior. Unclear whether the suspect may possibly be intoxicated or is struggling from some other emotional issues. In any event, continuing to circle this neighborhood here south of the 10 freeway. Back on San Antonio Avenue now. And once again back on Holt Avenue. Holt Avenue westbound, passing Mountain View. Very light traffic this evening here in Pomona. Plenty of opportunity, by my observation, for Pomona Police to bring this to an end, but they have decided not to antagonize this suspect, not even to pull up too close behind him and try and pull him over the old-fashioned way. They're now just tracking his movements from above and following him on the ground from quite a distance. Units behind him. Only the helicopter, who's still in the neighborhood here, as they continue to follow the driver of an older model Ford SUV driving aimlessly through the streets of Pomona. Really, what can only be considered a joyride at this point. But still a serious situation, especially if those reports are true that he may possibly be armed. That's certainly, well, that'll certainly keep law enforcement on him. They will not necessarily just let him get away, although they have that option. They could decide to do that if they know where he lives, if they have enough information on him. They could just follow from above, and that almost appears to be what they're doing at this point. They have pulled back almost entirely at the street level and are really only calling this pursuit out from above. So actually maybe a few more units possibly. Can you tell, Kyle, are those unmarked units right behind him there, or are they re-engaged? Doesn't look like it. Looks like pedestrian traffic there, some civilian traffic. Now that suspect making another turn, this time off of Holt Avenue onto Indian Hill Boulevard. Still doing about 25, 30 miles per hour. Right through that red light there. Once again, we're back on Indian Hill Boulevard. The suspect continuing to run from the cops here. Well, at least that helicopter. He's not pulling over, not showing any even signs of coming to a stop here. But one thing we've noticed, as we mentioned earlier, that the ground units, the Pomona police behind him at one point, have pulled back almost entirely and left this driver to his own devices as that helicopter tracks his movements through the streets of Pomona. Again, doing wide circles around these neighborhoods south of the 10 freeway, making another turn now onto San Jose Avenue. Again, a slow speed, what started as a slow speed pursuit earlier this evening, back into surveillance mode, but still frustrating for all involved none the least, and still very distressing for the family members who are apparently in communication with law enforcement. So we're continuing to follow him as he makes his way through here at almost a snail's pace, really only doing between 20 and 30 miles per hour. A heavily tinted SUV, refusing to pull over for police, and still refusing to bring this to an end. He refused to pull over when they tried to pull him over earlier, and despite the fact that he has had law enforcement on his tail for much of the time, and now in the last several minutes, really only that helicopter tracking him from above. He's just continuing the same behavior. He really hasn't changed his driving behavior all that much. Slow speeds, disobeying red lights, still running stop signs, and just continuing the joyride. Unclear, again, what his goal is or what his mental state is. In fact, there's a lot of unanswered questions, obviously, but we're going to continue to follow him here. He's no, he's which way are you pointing, buddy? Excuse us as while we navigate around some of the air traffic up here. You can see that SUV now continuing down Mills Avenue at a very slow pace here, down to 20 miles per hour. Nobody really behind him here. And I think that's going to do it for our coverage from up here in Air 7 HD. It's a situation that we are going to continue to monitor. And if it comes to a resolution, we will, of course, bring you the latest details and developments coming up tonight on Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock. Reporting live from Air 7 HD, I'm Chris Christie, ABC7 Eyewitness News.